Picture this, you're on an old blue train. The window is wide open, and below you, 200 feet below, 9 perfect arches of stone. A bridge built in 1921. Not a single piece of steel in the whole thing. Around you, endless green. This is a country the size of West Virginia. 22 million people live here, but fewer than 19% live in cities, one of the 5 least urbanized nations on Earth. And yet this tiny teardrop of an island somehow holds 8 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, the densest leopard population on the planet, the largest animal that has ever lived, and a tree planted by human hands still standing after 2,300 years. Welcome to Sri Lanka. Our story begins with a single teardrop floating in the Indian Ocean. From the plain, Sri Lanka looks like exactly what poets called it, a teardrop, green, wet, small, only 30 miles off the coast of India. On a clear day, you can see it from the tip of Ramwaram. The whole island is roughly the size of West Virginia, 25,000 square miles, small enough to drive across in a day. But here's the magic: Sri Lanka has 3 completely different worlds stacked inside it. Down at the coast, palm trees, tropical heat, 77 to 88 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. Head inland and you climb into a mountain town called Nuwara Eliya, 6,000 feet high. The locals call it Little England. Cool, misty, and yes, the rose gardens the British planted in the 1800s still bloom today. Go north or east, and you're in the dry zone. Sun-baked plains, elephants, ancient ruins. Now here's what's cool: Sri Lanka has 2 monsoons. Not 1, 2, going in opposite directions. The southwest monsoon soaks the west coast from May to September. The northeast monsoon soaks the east coast from October to February, which means no matter what month you show up, half the island is always dry, half is always ready for you. And the wildlife spectacles. Twice a year at Mirissa, 300 wild elephants gather around a single ancient lake. Lonely Planet ranks this one of the top 10 wildlife spectacles on Earth. Out in the highlands, there's a cliff called World's End. It drops straight down nearly 1,000 meters, 3 times taller than the Empire State Building. And with a country this dramatic, you'd expect the people to be just as intense. But that's where Sri Lanka surprises you. The first word you hear when you land will stay with you long after you leave. Ayubowan. It's how they say hello, but it doesn't mean hello. It literally means, may you live long. That single word tells you almost everything. 22 million people, 75% Sinhalese descendants of migrants from northern India in the 5th century BC, 15% Tamil, 9% more, each with its own language and food. But they all share one thing, a warmth that catches Americans off guard. Real talk, you will be invited into someone's home for tea within 5 minutes of meeting them, and they mean it. Meals here can stretch 2 hours. Nobody rushes, nobody scrolls. They eat with the right hand, mixing rice and curry between the fingers, and they talk about family, cricket, weather. Now here's where it gets interesting. Sri Lanka has a mountain called Adam's Peak, 7,300 feet tall, perfect pyramid shape, and at the summit there's a footprint carved into the stone. Buddhists believe it's the Buddha. Hindus believe it's Shiva. Muslims believe it's Adam, banished from paradise. Christians believe it's St. Thomas. 4 religions, 1 mountain, and every pilgrimage season, they all climb it, together, 5,000 steps in the dark, to watch the sunrise from the same summit. And speaking of firsts, did you know the world's first female prime minister came from Sri Lanka? Her name was Sirimavo Bandaranaike. She took office in 1960, 19 years before Margaret Thatcher. Then there's Poya. Every full moon of every month, the entire country stops. Businesses close, bars legally shut down. The country breathes. This is a culture that invented slow living 2,500 years before it was ever an Instagram hashtag. If you've made it this far, Sri Lanka has already started to work on you. Do me one small favor, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. And if you've ever set foot on this island, leave a heart down below. If you haven't, buckle in. The best is still ahead, my friend. For centuries, the Silk Road ended here. Ships from Arabia, Persia, Portugal, they all came for one thing: spice. Sri Lanka is the world's #1 exporter of true cinnamon, Ceylon cinnamon, the kind you probably don't buy in your American grocery store because most of what Americans call cinnamon comes from China or Vietnam. Real Ceylon cinnamon is softer, sweeter, more layered. Then there's Ceylon tea. The British brought tea plants here in 1867 after a fungus wiped out all the coffee plantations. Today, Ceylon tea is exported to over 90 countries. The finest grade comes from Nuwara Eliya up in the misty highlands at 6,000 feet. Almost every tea plucker up here is a Tamil woman. Their hands are fast 20 kilos of fresh leaves a day. That becomes about 4 kilos of dried tea, which becomes 300 cups for someone somewhere on the planet. But 82% of Sri Lankans live outside the city. Let me take you there. Sri Lanka has 2 faces, completely different, living side by side. Face 1, the cities. Colombo is the commercial heart. Metro area, 5.6 million people. The Lotus Tower rises 1,150 feet tallest in South Asia, standing next to 100-year-old British warehouses. Every evening, on Galle Green, the seaside promenade, 100,000 people show up after work. Kites in the air, fried shrimp fritters, kids barefoot on the grass. It's basically Sri Lanka's Coney Island, just with more curry. Way up north, there's Jaffna, the Tamil city, with its own food, its own temples, and a crab curry that will burn your face off. Face 2, the villages. Here's the number that stopped me cold. Only 18.7% of Sri Lankans live in a city, one of the 5 least urbanized nations on Earth, right next to Niger, right next to South Sudan, which means 82% live in real ancient villages, 38,000 of them. Every single one follows the same ancient pattern: 1 village, 1 tank. A tank is what they call a man-made reservoir. Every village is built around a lake that irrigates the rice fields. This engineering is 2,500 years old. Sri Lankans had 30,000 of these water systems built before America was even discovered. There's a village concept called Hu Hunda, literally the hooting distance. Villages were built so every house was within shouting distance of every other. Nobody's alone. The houses have clay tile roofs, carved wooden doors, open verandas. Every home garden grows bananas, mangoes, jackfruit, coconuts, chilies, enough to feed the family. The day starts at 5 in the morning. Women pick vegetables. Men plow rice paddies with buffalo. Kids walk to school barefoot down dirt roads. Here's what's remarkable. The government invested equally in villages and cities, which means people don't flee to the city like they do in India or Bangladesh. The village stays alive. That's why this country still feels like Asia used to feel 50 years ago. If you order the national dish, they don't bring you one bowl. They bring you 10. A mound of rice in the center, and around it, 5, 6, 7 tiny bowls. Dal, fish curry, chicken curry, vegetables, sambal. This is rice and curry, and it's not a recipe, it's a philosophy. The point is balance. Spicy against sour, sweet against bitter. Every bite is different. You mix with your fingers. You take your time. Sri Lankan curry is spicier than Indian curry. Fair warning. They roast their spices dark, add more chili, pour in more coconut milk. Fiery, rich, addictive. Then there's Kottu roti. This is what young Sri Lankans eat at night, the way Americans eat pizza. Roti bread chopped up on a hot iron griddle, mixed with eggs, vegetables, chicken. The chef uses 2 metal blades to chop the whole thing in front of you. And the sound, the rhythmic clang of metal on metal is so loud, it echoes down entire streets. Locals call it the national sound. At breakfast hoppers, crispy little rice flour bowls with a runny egg cracked into the middle. If you're anything like me, you'll want 3. One rule here. When you enter a Sri Lankan home, they will pour tea for you before you can introduce yourself. Refuse the tea, and they think you don't want to be friends. They call it one of the most beautiful train rides in the world, and a third-class ticket costs $1.60, cheaper than a Starbucks. 7 hours. Kandy to Yala, tea plantations, mist, waterfalls. But the moment that stops you in your tracks is the 9-arch bridge, built in 1921 under British rule. 9 perfect arches across a jungle valley. Here's the crazy part. It was built entirely from stone and brick. No steel, not a single piece. World War I had made steel too expensive to ship out, so local Sri Lankan engineers built the whole thing the old way, and it's still standing over 100 years later. The trains go slow across the bridge. Passengers lean out of the doorways, hair flying, hands stretched into the wind. A woman in Yala once told me, if you didn't lean out and stretch your hand, you didn't really ride the train. And this blue train is heading towards something people call the 8th wonder of the world. Fifth century AD. A young man named Kashyapa murders his own father to steal the throne. Terrified his brother might come for revenge, Kashyapa does something insane. He decides to build his palace on top of a rock, a single vertical granite rock, 656 feet tall, roughly the height of the Willis Tower in Chicago without the antenna. This is Sigiriya, Lion Rock. Kashyapa carved staircases up the sheer cliff face. Halfway up, you find frescoes painted directly onto the stone, beautiful bare-shouldered women holding flowers. 1,500-years-old colors still burning bright. Nearby, there's a mirror wall once polished so smooth you could see your reflection. Carved into it graffiti from the 6th century. little poems by pilgrims, the oldest written Sinhalese language ever found. Higher up, the Lion Gate. This entrance was once a massive roaring lion carved from the rock, and you'd walk into its open mouth to reach the palace. Today, only the two enormous paws remain, but standing between them, you can feel the ambition. At the top, a landscaped garden, swimming pools, a stone throne. Kashyapa lived here for 18 years. Then one day, his brother, Moggallana, showed up with an army. Kashyapa lost. He took his own life on the battlefield. UNESCO put Sigiriya on the World Heritage List in 1982. If the pyramids of Egypt are architecture built up here, Sigiriya is architecture built on top of something 2 billion years old. Climate at 6 in the morning. Clouds below your feet. Silence. And you finally understand why one man killed his own father for 18 years up here. But Sri Lanka has another sacred city where a single tooth changed the fate of a nation. Kandy was the last free Sinhalese kingdom before the British conquered it in 1815, and it holds the most sacred object in all of Sri Lanka, a single tooth of the Buddha. Brought to the island in the 4th century AD, hidden in the hair of an Indian princess fleeing an invasion. The temple that houses it, Sri Dalada Maligawa, was built in 1595. Monks perform ceremonies 3 times every single day. Every Wednesday, the tooth is symbolically bathed in scented herb water, and that water is then given to visitors who believe it carries healing powers. Here's the wild part. There's a belief that whoever holds the tooth holds the right to rule Sri Lanka. Every king, every emperor, every foreign invader has tried to control this relic. Terrorist bombs have hit the temple multiple times. Every time it's been fully restored. And the tooth itself, nobody sees it. It's locked inside 7 nested caskets. No one outside a small group of official monks has laid eyes on it in over 100 years. But if you want to see the sacred creatures of this island, you need a jeep and a very early morning. Meet the real king of Sri Lanka. This is the Sri Lankan leopard Panthera pardus cotia, a subspecies found nowhere else on Earth, larger than its African and Indian cousins. A big male can hit 170 pounds, golden coat, black rosettes, green eyes that stare right through you. And in Yala National Park, the density is roughly 1 leopard per square kilometer, the highest anywhere on the planet. But here's what makes this leopard different. Sri Lanka has no lions, no tigers, no hyenas. This leopard is the top of the food chain with no rivals. You know what that means? These leopards don't hide. In Kenya, in South Africa, in India, leopards are night creatures. They avoid daylight because bigger predators kill them. But in Sri Lanka, a leopard will lie out in the open at 11 in the morning, sunbathing on a boulder, because nothing on this island can touch him. To Sri Lankans, the leopard is a national symbol. His image is on the coins. If you want to see a wild leopard once in your life, Yala is the highest probability spot on Earth. Not Kenya, not South Africa. Here, 30% chance on a 4-hour safari. 80% if you do 2. There was a legendary Yala leopard named Kumana, 40,000 Instagram followers before she vanished in 2022. Nobody knows where she went. Rising 7,300 feet above the tea plantations, you can see it from 40 miles away, the perfect cone shape of Adam's Peak. Sri Pada, the sacred footprint. Pilgrimage season runs December to May. The climb starts at 2 in the morning. 5,000 stone steps in the dark. Grandmothers, backpackers, monks in orange robes, Muslim families, Christian pilgrims, everyone climbing together because at this mountain, the footprint at the top belongs to all of them. You reach the summit just before dawn, and then you see it. Not just the sunrise, something stranger. The pyramid-shaped mountain casts a shadow, a perfect dark triangle onto the clouds to the west. It looks like a giant floating pyramid of air. This is called the shadow of Sri Pada, and it only appears here for about 10 minutes, right after sunrise. The largest animal that has ever lived on planet Earth, bigger than any dinosaur, is the blue whale, 100 feet long, 200 tons. Its heart is the size of a small car. Its tongue weighs as much as a full-grown elephant. And the most reliable place on the planet to see one is the coast of Mirissa in southern Sri Lanka. Here's why. Sri Lanka sits on the migration highway of the Indian Ocean. Deep water comes within 6 nautical miles of the coast. Sri Lanka actually has a resident population of blue whales. They don't migrate. They live here full-time. Almost nowhere else on Earth has that. Their calls hit 188 decibels, the loudest sound made by any animal on the planet, loud enough to be heard 1,000 miles away. Whale tours from Mirissa run $25 to $40. Compare that to Boston or Cape Cod, $125 minimum. Sri Lanka is 5 times cheaper with better odds. Sri Lanka has one last primary rainforest left. It's called Sinharaja, UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. Only about 8,800 hectares, roughly the size of Central Park in New York, plus 200 more parks stacked on top. Small. But 60% of its trees are endemic. They exist nowhere else on Earth. Walk in at dawn. Mist rolling through the canopy. Purple-faced langurs, a monkey found only in Sri Lanka, swinging above you. The Sri Lankan blue magpie flashes electric blue between the leaves, and somewhere in this jungle lives the rusty spotted cat, the smallest wild cat in the world. 2 to 3.5 pounds, about the size of a squirrel with attitude. Higher up, you reach the Central Highlands, home to a cliff called World's End, a sheer drop nearly 1,000 meters straight down. Empire State Building ×3. Show up at 6 a.m., you see the entire southern half of Sri Lanka. Show up at 10, the clouds swallow everything. 1505 Portuguese ships arrive at the southern coast. They build a fort. 1656, the Dutch conquer it. 1815, the British take over. 1948, Sri Lanka wins independence. The fort still stands. Galle Fort, UNESCO, since 1988. Cobblestone streets, Dutch villas with high ceilings, colonial churches, and now, inside those old walls, boutique cafes, art galleries, spice shops. If you're American, think of it like St. Augustine, Florida, both old European colonial towns on tropical coasts, both among the oldest European settlements anywhere. The difference: Galle has the Indian Ocean on 3 sides and elephants roaming the fields an hour inland. Walk the fortress walls at sunset, waves crashing against the stone below, the sun sinking into the Indian Ocean. Vasco da Gama himself stopped here in 1497 on his way to find India. But if you really want to see Sri Lanka on fire, you have to come in August. Every year, in July or August, When the full moon of Esala rises over the hill country, the small city of Kandy transforms. 120,000 residents host over 1 million visitors, and for 10 straight nights, the city becomes something you cannot imagine unless you're standing in it. This is Esala Perahera, the oldest religious procession in Asia, over 2,000 years old. Each night, the streets fill up before dark. Then, you hear the drums. The getabera, the traditional Kandyan drum, pounding a rhythm that hasn't changed in 2,500 years. Then whip crackers sending gunshot-loud cracks into the air. Then fire dancers spinning torches. Then hundreds of Kandyan dancers in gold and white. And then the elephants. About 100 elephants, each draped in embroidered velvet, covered in tiny lights and gold bells. And at the very front, the Maligawa Tusker, a single royal male, carrying a golden casket on his back. Inside is a symbolic representation of the sacred tooth of the Buddha. The whole procession moves through the dark streets of Kandy, thousands of torches moving as one giant river of fire. From the sky, it looks like lava flowing through the alleyways. There's a belief here. If the royal elephant stumbles during the procession, the country will face great trouble that year. Every step matters. Every step is watched. You stand on the curb. Cup of hot ginger tea in your hands. Torches passing inches from your face, and you understand. 2,300 years after Buddhism arrived on this island, people still fill the streets every August. Not because someone told them to, because they believe. All right, if Sri Lanka just made your bucket list, here's what you need to know. Timing: the west and south coast, Colombo, Galle. Mirissa: Ella is best, December to March. Dry, sunny, peak whale season. The east coast is opposite best, May to September. The elephant gathering at Mirissa peaks, August to October. Kandy, Esala, Perahera runs late July into August. Adams Peak, December to May. Vesak Lantern Festival, full moon in May. Avoid monsoon peaks, June in the west, November in the east. Cost in US dollars. Budget travelers to Sri Lanka on about $37 a day. Hostel 10 street food, 10 transport 5. Mid-range 120 a day. Luxury 300 plus. Flights from the US route through Doha or Dubai, from JFK or LAX. Round trip $900 to $1,400. The train from Kandy to Ella, 7 hours through tea country, costs $1.60 in third class. Tuk-tuks run $1 to $5. Download the Pick Me app. Visa: Sri Lanka uses an ETA system. Apply online. $35. 30-day tourist stay extendable up to 270 days. A few laws you must know. On Poya days, every full moon, bars close and alcohol is not sold. Take your shoes off before every temple. Never turn your back to a Buddha statue for a selfie. Tourists have been deported for that. Cover shoulders and knees at religious sites. Don't drink the tap water. But Sri Lanka is one of the safest countries in Asia for solo female travelers. English is widely spoken. And the people, well, you already know about the people. Sri Lanka is a country the size of a single US state, and yet packed inside it, a tree older than most civilizations, a rock fortress built by a king who murdered his own father, the densest population of leopards on Earth, and 22 million people who invite you in for tea 5 minutes after meeting you. If you ever set foot here, you will not leave with a t-shirt or a check-in photo. You'll leave with something you can't quite name. Maybe a slower heartbeat. Maybe the ability to fall asleep to the sound of insects with no streetlight, no notification, no rush. Because Sri Lanka isn't just a place. It's a reminder that the world still has corners where time isn't in a hurry. If Sri Lanka just made it onto your bucket list, drop Ayubowan in the comments below. It means may you live long. If this journey warmed your heart, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell so I can keep taking you to the next country we visit together. Where should we go next? Bhutan, Nepal, Madagascar, Colombia? Drop your guess below and share this video with the friend you want to travel with. Until next time, my friend, Ayubowan. Ayubowan from a teardrop in the Indian Ocean.